"Come on, Emma, don't be like that," he called out, his voice echoing off the empty street. It was 2 a.m, and she'd just finished her shift. The parking lot was deserted except for his car, which he'd deliberately parked next to hers. Again. "I just want to talk." "I've told you to leave me alone," she said, hating how her voice trembled. "I'm not interested, Marcus. Please just go." He laughed, closing the distance between them. "You're going to regret playing hard to get. I always get what I want." Emma's finger found the trigger on the pepper spray. She'd never imagined her life would come to this. 6 months ago, she'd been finishing her master's degree in art history, working part-time at the university gallery. Then her father's medical bills started piling up after his stroke, and suddenly she was working double shifts at a diner just to keep him in the rehabilitation center. And now this customer, this entitled creep who thought buying coffee gave him the right to follow her to her car, to show up at her apartment, to make her life a living hell. "Stay back," she warned, pulling the canister from her pocket. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "You think that's going to stop me?" Before he could take another step, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb with barely a whisper. The door opened, and a man stepped out into the rain. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive charcoal suit that probably cost more than Emma made in 6 months. His dark hair was pushed back from a face that could have been carved from marble. All sharp angles and intense eyes that seemed to assess the entire situation in a single glance. "Is there a problem here?" His voice was smooth, cultured, but with an undercurrent of steel that made Marcus actually take a step backward. "This is none of your business," Marcus said, but his bravado was cracking. The stranger's eyes moved to Emma, and for a moment she felt like she couldn't breathe. There was something about the way he looked at her, like she was the only person in the world that mattered in that moment. "Are you all right?" he asked her directly, ignoring Marcus entirely. Emma nodded, still clutching the pepper spray. "I'm fine. I just want to go home." "Then go home." He said it so simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Then he turned to Marcus, and his expression changed. It wasn't anger exactly. It was something colder, more dangerous. "You're going to get in your car and leave, and you're never going to come within 100 feet of her again." Marcus laughed nervously. "Who the hell do you think you are? Someone you don't want to know." The stranger pulled out his phone and showed Marcus the screen. Emma couldn't see what was on it, but Marcus's face went completely white. "That's your address, your mother's address, the bank account you've been skimming from. Shall I continue?" "Jesus Christ," Marcus whispered. "Are you—" "Leave. Now!" Marcus practically ran to his car. The tires squealed as he peeled out of the parking lot, and then Emma was alone with this stranger who'd just saved her from God knows what. "Thank you," she managed to say. "I don't know what you showed him, but it doesn't matter." He was looking at her again with that same intense focus. "You shouldn't be walking to your car alone at this hour." "I don't have a choice. I work the night shift." "You have a choice now." He gestured to his car. "Let me drive you home." Every instinct told her this was a terrible idea. She didn't know this man. He could be dangerous. But something in his eyes made her trust him, and she was so tired of being afraid. "I don't even know your name," she said. "Alexander." He opened the passenger door. "And you're Emma. I heard him say it." She slid into the car, which smelled of leather and expensive cologne. The interior was pristine, and when Alexander got in beside her, she felt acutely aware of how small the space was. "Where do you live?" he asked. She gave him the address of her tiny studio apartment across town. As he pulled into traffic, she couldn't help but study his profile. There was something about him that seemed almost regal, a natural authority that made everyone else seem diminished by comparison. "What did you show him?" she finally asked. "On your phone." Alexander's lips curved into a slight smile. The truth. Sometimes that's the most powerful weapon. "You knew all that about him? About the money he was stealing?" "I know a lot of things, Emma." He glanced at her. For instance, I know that you graduated summa cum laude from Columbia with a degree in art history. I know your father is at Riverside Rehabilitation Center. I know you've been working yourself to exhaustion trying to pay for his care. Emma's blood ran cold. How do you know all that? Have you been following me? No, but I make it my business to know what happens in my city. He said it so casually, as if it were perfectly normal to have detailed information about a random waitress. Your city? He pulled up in front of her building and turned to face her fully. In the dim light from the street lamps, his eyes were almost black. I own half the real estate in this neighborhood. I have interests in most of the businesses. When something happens that I need to know about, I'm informed. I don't understand. Why would you need to know about me? Because 3 weeks ago, one of my associates mentioned that a man was harassing a woman at the diner on 5th Street. The same diner where my late mother used to take me for pancakes when I was a child. I don't tolerate that kind of behavior anywhere, but especially not there. Emma's mind was reeling. So you've known about Marcus for 3 weeks? I've been keeping an eye on the situation, making sure it didn't escalate. Tonight, I'd decided it had gone far enough. You could have just called the police. Alexander's expression darkened. The police are useful for many things, Emma. But they're not always effective at making men like Marcus understand the severity of their mistakes. I am. There was something in the way he said it that made Emma shiver. This man wasn't just wealthy. He was powerful in a way that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with fear. You're scaring me, she whispered. His face immediately softened. I'm sorry. That's the last thing I want to do. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently took her hand. His touch was warm, and she felt an electric shock run up her arm. You've been carrying that pepper spray for 3 weeks, living in fear, looking over your shoulder. I just want you to know that you don't have to be afraid anymore. Marcus won't bother you again. I promise you that. How can you be so sure? Because if he does, he'll have to answer to me. And trust me, that's not something anyone wants. Emma knew she should be terrified. Everything about this situation screamed danger. But instead, she felt safe for the first time in weeks. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the way Alexander looked at her like she was precious. Maybe she'd just finally snapped under the pressure. Thank you, Alexander, really. I should go inside now. He released her hand reluctantly. May I see you again? Why would you want to see me again? Because you interest me, Emma Walsh. Because you're brilliant and brave and beautiful, and you're wasting your talents serving coffee to people who don't appreciate you. I do what I have to do. I know, that's what makes you remarkable. He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. It was thick, expensive paper with just a name and a phone number. No company, no title. If you need anything, and I mean anything, call me. Emma took the card, her fingers brushing against his. I don't understand why you're doing this. Neither do I, he admitted with a slight smile. But I'd like to find out. Have dinner with me tomorrow night. I have to work. What time does your shift end? 11. Then have a late dinner with me at 11. I know a place that serves the best Italian food in the city, and they'll be happy to accommodate us. Emma knew she should say no. Every rational part of her brain was screaming that this was insane. But when she looked into Alexander's eyes, she saw something there that made her want to take the risk. Okay, she heard herself say. 11 o'clock. The smile that spread across his face transformed him from intimidating to devastating. I'll pick you up from the diner. Get some sleep, Emma. You look exhausted. She climbed out of the car on shaky legs and watched him drive away into the night. Only then did she look down at the business card in her hand and really see the name printed there. Alexander Constantine. Her breath caught in her throat. Everyone in the city knew that name. The Constantine family was legendary, powerful, and, according to every rumor she'd ever heard, deeply connected to organized crime. They owned hotels, restaurants, shipping companies, and half the politicians in the state. And she'd just agreed to have dinner with the head of the family. Emma barely slept that night. She kept replaying the encounter in her mind, analyzing every word, every gesture. Alexander had been nothing but courteous to her, protective even, but there had been something in his eyes when he looked at Marcus. Something cold and merciless that reminded her exactly who and what he was. She should cancel. She should throw away the card and never think about Alexander Constantine again. Instead, she found herself calling the diner the next morning and asking for the night off. Her manager, Susan, was shocked. Emma never asked for time off. "Are you feeling okay, honey?" Susan asked, concern evident in her voice. "I'm fine. I have something important to do." "Well, all right then. You've certainly earned it. You haven't taken a day off in 3 months. Emma spent the day visiting her father at the rehab center. He was doing better, slowly regaining movement in his left side. When she told him she had a date that evening, his face lit up. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. You spend too much time worrying about me. You should be out enjoying your life." If only he knew who she was having dinner with. But she couldn't tell him. Couldn't explain that she was about to have dinner with one of the most dangerous men in the city. At 10:45, Emma stood outside the diner in the only decent dress she owned, a simple navy blue number she'd worn to her graduation. Her hands were shaking as she waited, and she'd almost convinced herself to just go home when the black car pulled up. Alexander stepped out, and Emma's breath caught. He was wearing a different suit, this one charcoal gray with a white shirt open at the collar. He looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes sweeping over her with obvious appreciation. "Thank you. You look," she trailed off, not trusting herself to finish the sentence. He smiled, understanding in his eyes, and opened the car door for her. As they drove through the city, Emma tried to calm her racing heart. "Where are we going?" she asked. "A little place in Little Italy. The owner is a friend." "Everything seems to be owned by your friends." Alexander laughed, a rich sound that made her stomach flutter. "I've lived in this city my entire life. I know a lot of people." They pulled up in front of a restaurant that looked modest from the outside, but when they walked in, Emma realized it was one of the most elegant places she'd ever seen. Soft lighting, white tablecloths, and the smell of garlic and wine filling the air. An older Italian man rushed forward, embracing Alexander like a son. "Alessandro, it's been too long." "Giuseppe, you're looking well. This is Emma." Giuseppe took Emma's hand and kissed it with old-world charm. "Any friend of Alessandro's is family here. Come, come, I have the best table for you." He led them to a private corner booth with a view of the kitchen. Wine appeared without being ordered, along with bread still warm from the oven. "So," Emma said when they were alone, "Alessandro?" "My mother was Russian. My father was Italian. Alessandro Constantine. I've always gone by Alexander in business." "And what business is that, exactly?" He met her eyes directly. "You know what business I'm in, Emma. You figured it out last night when you saw my name on the card." "I know what people say." "And what do people say?" "That the Constantine family is connected to organized crime. That you're dangerous. That people who cross you tend to disappear." Alexander took a sip of his wine, his expression unreadable. "The first part is true. The second part is true. The third part is an exaggeration, but not entirely unfounded." Emma's heart was pounding. "Should I be afraid of you?" "No." He said it with absolute certainty. "You should never be afraid of me, Emma. I would never hurt you. In fact, I find myself wanting to protect you from everyone who would. Why? You don't even know me. That's what I'm trying to remedy." He leaned forward. "Tell me about yourself, not the facts I already know. Tell me who you are." And somehow, in that moment, Emma found herself opening up in a way she hadn't with anyone in years. She told him about her love of art, about the thesis she'd written on Renaissance portraiture, about her dreams of working at the Met or the Guggenheim. She told him about her father, about the stroke that had devastated their small family, about her mother who died when Emma was 12. Alexander listened with complete attention, asking insightful questions, remembering every detail. When the food came, they barely noticed, too engrossed in conversation. You should be working in a museum, Alexander said at one point, not serving coffee. Museums don't pay enough to cover my father's medical bills. What if money wasn't an issue? Emma laughed bitterly. Money is always an issue when you grow up like I did. Not anymore. Alexander pulled out his phone and made a call. Dr. Morrison? It's Alexander Constantine. I need you to transfer a patient to your private facility. James Walsh, currently at Riverside. Yes, immediately. Full care, best therapist you have. Send the bills to my office. He hung up and looked at Emma's shocked face. Your father will have the best care available starting tomorrow. Emma couldn't breathe. I can't let you do that. I don't even know you. You're getting to know me, and I want to do this, Emma. Please let me. Tears were streaming down her face now. Why? Why would you do this for me? Alexander reached across the table and took both her hands in his. Because the moment I saw you standing in that parking lot, scared but brave, holding that pepper spray like a weapon, I knew you were someone special, someone worth protecting, someone I wanted in my life. You don't even know if you'll like me. I already like you, very much. His thumbs traced circles on her palms, sending shivers up her spine. Give me a chance to prove that to you. Let me help you. Let me take care of you. I'm not a charity case. No, you're a brilliant, beautiful woman who's been dealt a difficult hand. There's no shame in accepting help, Emma, especially when it's freely given. Emma knew she should refuse. Accepting this kind of help from a man like Alexander came with strings, whether he said so or not. But the thought of her father getting the care he needed, the thought of maybe finally being able to breathe without the weight of crushing debt on her shoulders, it was too tempting to resist. Okay, she whispered. Thank you. Alexander's smile was radiant. You're welcome. Now, what do you say we actually eat some of this excellent food before it gets cold? The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of laughter and conversation. Alexander was charming, funny, and surprisingly down-to-earth when he wasn't being intimidating. He told her stories about growing up in the city, about his mother's love of art, about the restaurant his family used to own before they expanded into other ventures. He didn't talk about the darker side of his business, and Emma didn't ask. For one night, she let herself pretend this was normal, that she was just a woman having dinner with an attractive, interesting man. When he drove her home, Alexander walked her to her door. I had a wonderful time tonight, Emma said, suddenly shy. So did I. Can I see you again? I'd like that. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch gentle. You won't need the pepper spray anymore, Emma. I'm going to make sure you're safe. That's a big promise. I keep my promises. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. Good night, Emma. She watched him drive away, her heart racing. She was in so much trouble. Over the next few weeks, Emma fell into a routine with Alexander. He would pick her up after her shifts, and they would talk for hours in his car or at quiet restaurants around the city. He showed her parts of the city she'd never seen, took her to private art showings and gallery openings, where people whispered and stared when they saw Alexander Constantine with an unknown woman on his arm. Emma's father was thriving in his new facility. The therapists were working miracles, and he was regaining mobility faster than anyone had expected. When Emma visited him, the guilt she felt at accepting Alexander's help was washed away by the joy on her father's face. But not everything was perfect. Emma started noticing things. The way people stepped aside when Alexander walked by. The fear in their eyes. The respect that bordered on terror. One night, as they sat in his car outside her apartment, Emma finally brought it up. What exactly do you do, Alexander? He was quiet for a long moment. I run my family's business interests. That's not an answer. He turned to face her, his expression serious. I do what I have to do to protect my family and my interests. Sometimes that means making difficult decisions. Sometimes it means being the kind of man that people fear. Have you ever killed anyone? Yes. The simple honesty of it took her breath away. Should I be afraid of you? I hope not. He reached out and cupped her face in his hand. Emma, I know what I am. I know what people think of me. But with you, I'm just a man who wants to make you smile. Who wants to hear about your day. Who wants to protect you from everything bad in this world. Even if the bad thing is you. Especially then. He leaned his forehead against hers. If you want me to walk away, I will. I'll make sure your father's care is covered for as long as he needs it. You'll never see me again. Just say the word. Emma's mind was racing. This was her chance to end it, to walk away from the danger and the complications. But when she looked into Alexander's eyes, all she could see was the man who had saved her from Marcus, who had listened to her talk about art for hours, who had remembered that she liked her coffee with too much sugar and not enough cream. I don't want you to walk away, she whispered. The kiss was inevitable. Alexander's lips met hers softly at first, tentative, asking permission. When Emma sighed and leaned into him, he deepened the kiss, his hand sliding into her hair. It was everything a first kiss should be. Gentle, passionate, and absolutely perfect. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alexander rested his forehead against hers again. Emma Walsh, you're going to be the death of me. I thought you were supposed to be the dangerous one. He laughed. Oh, sweetheart, you're far more dangerous to me than any rival family or federal investigation. You make me want things I thought I'd given up on. Like what? Like a normal life. Like coming home to someone who actually cares about me and not what I can do for them. Like being loved for who I am, not what I have. Emma's heart ached at the vulnerability in his voice. Alexander. I'm falling for you, he interrupted. I know it's too soon. I know I should keep my distance. But I can't help it. You've gotten under my skin and I don't want to let you go. Then don't. Emma kissed him again, pouring all her own confused feelings into it. She was falling too, and it terrified her, but she couldn't seem to stop. They started seeing each other more seriously after that night. Alexander took her to the opera, to charity galas where she met politicians and business leaders who treated Alexander with cautious respect. He bought her clothes for these events, expensive dresses and jewelry that made her feel like a princess. But her favorite nights were the quiet ones, when they would order takeout and watch old movies in his penthouse apartment, or when he would show up at the diner with flowers just because. Emma quit her job at the diner after a month. Alexander had offered her a position at one of his companies, but she'd refused. Instead, she'd applied for a curator position at a small gallery downtown and gotten it on her own merits. Alexander had been proud, taking her out to celebrate. Everything was perfect. Almost too perfect. The first crack appeared on a rainy Tuesday night. Emma was leaving the gallery when a black SUV pulled up beside her. Two men in expensive suits got out. Miss Walsh? You need to come with us. Emma's hand went instinctively to her purse, but she'd stopped carrying the pepper spray weeks ago. I don't think so. Who are you? Friends of Mr. Constantine. There's a situation he needs you to know about. Please, get in the car. Every instinct told her this was wrong, but these men knew Alexander's name. She got in the car, her heart pounding. They drove to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. As they pulled up, Emma saw Alexander's car already there. Relief flooded through her, but it was short-lived. The men led her inside, and what she saw made her stomach turn. Alexander was there, along with several other men in suits, and kneeling on the floor, bloodied and beaten, was Marcus. Emma! Alexander's face went pale when he saw her. What are you doing here? Your men brought me. They said you needed me to know about something. Alexander's expression turned thunderous. He turned to the men who'd brought her. I gave explicit instructions that she was never to see this side of my life. Get her out of here. Now! Wait. Emma stepped forward, her eyes on Marcus's terrified face. What's happening here? Nothing you need to concern yourself with, Alexander said firmly. Please, Emma, go home. I'll come by later and explain. But Emma couldn't move. Marcus's eyes met hers, pleading, desperate. Despite everything he'd done to her, seeing him like this made her feel sick. Did he come after me again? Alexander's jaw clenched. He tried to file a police report, said I'd threatened him, that I had dangerous connections. He was going to bring attention to our relationship, potentially put you in danger. I couldn't allow that. So you're going to kill him? The warehouse went deadly silent. No, Alexander said carefully. I'm going to make sure he understands the consequences of his actions. And then he's going to leave the city and never come back. Emma looked at Marcus, at the fear in his eyes, and felt something break inside her. Let him go! Emma, please, Alexander. I know what he did was wrong. I know he deserved to be scared. But this... She gestured at the scene before her. This isn't who I want you to be. Not for me. Alexander stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned to his men. Cut him loose. Give him $5,000 and put him on the next bus out of the city. If he ever comes back, if he ever speaks about any of this, then we finish this conversation. Understood? Marcus was nodding frantically, blood dripping from his split lip. Thank you, I swear I'll never... Get him out of my sight, Alexander ordered. When they were alone except for a few of Alexander's closest men standing at a discreet distance, Emma finally let herself look at him. Really look at him. There was blood on his knuckles, and his expression was harder than she'd ever seen it. You shouldn't have come here, he said quietly. I didn't know what I was walking into. That's my fault. I should have made it clear to everyone that you were off limits from all of this. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. Damn it, Emma. I never wanted you to see this. To see me like this. Like what? Like the man you actually are? He flinched as if she'd struck him. Yes. Like the monster who solves his problems with violence and fear. Emma stepped closer to him, her heart aching at the self-loathing in his voice. You let him go, because I asked you to. Of course I did. I'd do anything you asked me to. Then stop trying to hide who you are from me. She reached out and took his hand, the one with the bloodied knuckles. I know what you do, Alexander. I've known from the beginning. And yes, seeing it is different than knowing about it. But I'm still here. I'm still choosing you. You shouldn't. You should run as far and as fast as you can. Why? Because you're dangerous? Because you've done terrible things? Emma lifted his hand to her lips and kissed his knuckles gently. I don't care about any of that. I care about the man who saved me when I was scared, who makes my father laugh when he visits him at the rehab center, who remembers that I like my eggs scrambled with cheese. That's the man I'm falling in love with. Alexander's eyes widened. Emma? I love you, she said, the words tumbling out now that she'd started. I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other for 2 months, but I love you. Alexander Constantine. All of you. Even the parts you're trying to hide from me. For a moment, Alexander just stared at her. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I love you, too, he whispered into her hair. God, Emma, I love you so much it terrifies me. I've never felt this way about anyone. I didn't think I was capable of it. She pulled back just enough to look up at him. I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more secrets. If something involves me, even tangentially, I want to know about it. I can't be kept in the dark. He hesitated, and she could see the conflict in his eyes. My world is dangerous, Emma. The less you know, the safer you are. That's not how this works. I'm either in your life, or I'm not. You can't protect me by shutting me out. Alexander cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. You're asking me to put you at risk. Everything in me rebels against that. And you're asking me to love half a man. I need all of you, Alexander. The good and the bad. He closed his eyes, clearly struggling with himself. When he opened them again, there was resignation and something else. Relief, maybe. Okay, no more secrets. But Emma, if things get dangerous, then we face them together. He kissed her then, deep and passionate, and Emma felt like she was finally seeing the real Alexander. Not the polished businessman, or the dangerous criminal, but the man underneath it all. Vulnerable, scared of losing her, desperately in love. Over the next few months, Alexander kept his promise. He started including Emma in more aspects of his life, though he was careful to keep her away from the truly dangerous elements. She met his associates, learned about the various businesses he ran, both legitimate and otherwise. She also met his family. His uncle Victor, who ran the shipping operations. His cousin Alexei, who handled security. And his grandmother Katerina, a formidable Russian woman who'd emigrated to America 50 years ago and still ran the family with an iron fist from her townhouse in Brooklyn. Katerina had looked Emma up and down with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "So you're the girl who has my Alessandro acting like a lovesick puppy." "Grandmother," Alexander protested, but there was affection in his voice. "It's good," Katerina continued, ignoring him. "A man needs a woman who makes him soft. Otherwise he becomes too hard, too cold. You love him?" "Yes," Emma said without hesitation. "Good. He loves you too. I can tell. He looks at you the way my husband looked at me. God rest his soul." She reached out and patted Emma's hand. "You make him happy. That's all that matters to me." As winter turned to spring, Emma's life settled into a new normal. She excelled at her job at the gallery, eventually being promoted to assistant curator. Her father continued to improve, eventually moving back to his own apartment with a visiting nurse. And Alexander was a constant, loving presence in her life. But the peace couldn't last forever. The trouble started with a new family moving into the territory, the Morellis from Philadelphia. They wanted a piece of the Constantine operations, and they weren't being subtle about it. Alexander tried to negotiate, to find a peaceful solution, but the Morellis weren't interested in peace. One evening, as Emma was closing up the gallery, her phone rang. It was Alexander. "Emma, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Don't go home tonight. Go to my apartment. Victor is on his way to pick you up right now." Emma's blood ran cold. "What's happening?" "The Morellis are making a move. I don't think they'll come after you, but I'm not taking any chances. Please, just do as I ask." "Where are you?" "Dealing with this. I'll come to you as soon as I can. I love you." "Alexander." But he'd already hung up. 5 minutes later, Victor pulled up in an armored SUV, and Emma found herself being whisked away to Alexander's penthouse with 2 armed guards. She paced the apartment for hours, imagining the worst. What if Alexander was hurt? What if he didn't come back? It was almost midnight when she heard the key in the lock. She ran to the door, relief flooding through her when she saw Alexander standing there. He was disheveled, his suit jacket gone and his shirt stained with what looked like blood. But he was alive. "Are you hurt?" she demanded, running her hands over him, checking for injuries. "It's not my blood." He pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "It's over. The Morellis won't be a problem anymore." Emma didn't ask what that meant. She didn't want to know. "I was so scared." "I know. I'm sorry. I never wanted you to feel that way because of me." She pulled back to look at him. "This is the reality of your life, isn't it? This constant danger, always looking over your shoulder." "Yes. And it's never going to change." Alexander's expression was bleak. "No, it's not. This is who I am, Emma. This is the world I live in. If you want out, I understand. I'll make sure you're protected, that you're safe." "Stop!" Emma placed her hand over his mouth. "Stop trying to push me away every time things get hard. I'm not going anywhere." "You should," he said against her palm. "You deserve so much better than this. Better than me. What I deserve is a man who loves me, who would protect me with his life, who makes me laugh and challenges me and sees me as an equal." She lowered her hand. That man is you, Alexander. I don't care about the rest. Emma, I'm not afraid anymore, she interrupted. Not of your world, not of your enemies. The only thing I'm afraid of is losing you. So stop trying to make that decision for me. Something in Alexander's expression cracked. He dropped to his knees in front of her, pulling a small box from his pocket. Emma's breath caught. I was going to wait, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I was going to plan something perfect, romantic. But I can't wait anymore. Emma Walsh, you walked into my life carrying pepper spray and fear, and somehow you managed to make me believe in happiness again. You make me want to be a better man. You make me believe I can be a better man. Marry me. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. Emma was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. Yes, of course, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, a stunning diamond that caught the light and sent rainbows dancing across the walls. Then he stood and kissed her, and Emma felt like her heart might burst from happiness. I love you, he whispered against her lips. I will love you until the day I die and beyond. I love you too, so much. They were married 3 months later in a small, private ceremony. Katerina cried. Emma's father walked her down the aisle with only a slight limp, and Alexander looked at Emma like she was the most precious thing in the world. The reception was held at one of the Constantine hotels, and it seemed like half the city was there. Politicians, businessmen, and yes, some people whose business cards probably listed their occupation as entrepreneur, but who everyone knew were part of the family business. As Emma danced with her new husband, she caught sight of herself in one of the mirrors. She looked happy, radiant even. Her hand went unconsciously to her purse, where the pepper spray used to live. She'd thrown it away months ago. She didn't need it anymore. What are you thinking about? Alexander asked, following her gaze. About the night we met. About how terrified I was. About how you saved me. You saved me too, you know. He spun her out, and then pulled her back into his arms. I was empty before you, just going through the motions. You gave me a reason to live instead of just survive. We saved each other then. Yes. He leaned down and kissed her softly. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret taking a chance on a man like me. Emma smiled up at him. The only thing I regret is not meeting you sooner. As they continued to dance, Emma thought about how much her life had changed in less than a year. She'd gone from working double shifts at a diner, terrified and alone, to being married to one of the most powerful men in the city. She'd gone from hiding pepper spray in her pocket to standing beside Alexander at charity galas and business meetings. But more than that, she'd found love. Real, deep, consuming love. The kind of love that made her brave, that made her strong. Later that night, when the guests had gone home and they were alone in the honeymoon suite, Alexander pulled her close. No regrets? He asked. Emma thought about everything she'd learned about his world, the violence, the danger, the moral compromises. She thought about the life she could have had if she'd never met him. Safe, quiet, ordinary. Not a single one, she said, and meant it with her whole heart. Because yes, Alexander Constantine was dangerous. He was powerful and ruthless and feared by everyone who knew his name. But he was also the man who had asked her who she was afraid of, so he could protect her. The man who had made sure her father got the best care possible. The man who looked at her like she was his entire world. And as he carried her to bed, Emma realized that she didn't need pepper spray anymore. She had something far more powerful protecting her now. She had love. And in Alexander's world, where loyalty meant everything and betrayal meant death, love was the most dangerous weapon of all. But it was also the most beautiful, and Emma wouldn't have traded it for anything. The first 6 months of marriage were blissful. Emma had moved into Alexander's penthouse, and they'd fallen into an easy rhythm. She continued working at the gallery, which had recently acquired a collection of Renaissance paintings that she was cataloging. Alexander supported her career completely, often showing up at exhibition openings with flowers and that proud smile that made her heart flutter. But on a cold November evening, everything changed. Emma was working late at the gallery, alone in the storage room examining a newly acquired painting, when she heard the main door open. She glanced at her watch. It was nearly 9 o'clock. They'd closed hours ago. "Hello?" she called out, walking toward the front of the gallery. 3 men stood in the entrance, and Emma's stomach dropped. She didn't recognize them, but she recognized the type. They had that same predatory look that Marcus had once had, but magnified 1,000 times. These weren't confused, entitled men. These were professionals. "Emma Constantine," the tallest one said, pulling out a gun. "You're coming with us." Emma's hand flew to her phone in her pocket, but the second man was faster. He grabbed her wrist, twisting it painfully until she dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor and he crushed it under his heel. "No calls, no warnings. Your husband has something we want, and you're going to help us get it." Terror flooded through Emma's veins, but she forced herself to stay calm. Alexander had prepared her for this possibility, had made her memorize protocols, had taught her how to stay alive if something like this ever happened. "My husband will kill you for this," she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. The tall man laughed. "Your husband will do exactly what we tell him if he wants to see you alive again. Now move." They hustled her out the back entrance into a waiting van. Emma's mind raced. Alexander would know something was wrong when she didn't answer her phone. He'd send people to look for her. She just had to stay alive long enough for him to find her. They drove for what felt like hours, but was probably only 45 minutes, ending up at an abandoned factory on the waterfront. The men dragged her inside and tied her to a chair in what looked like an old office. The tall man pulled out a phone and dialed. "We have her. Yes, she's unharmed. For now. You know what we want, Constantine. The shipment that came in last Tuesday. All of it. You have 6 hours. If we don't get it, your wife starts losing fingers." Emma's blood ran cold. She could hear Alexander's voice on the other end, controlled, but deadly. "If you touch one hair on her head, 6 hours, the man interrupted. "We'll send you the location. Come alone, or she dies. Bring the cops. She dies. Try anything clever. She dies. Are we clear?" He hung up and looked at Emma with cold eyes. "Congratulations, Mrs. Constantine. You just became the most valuable commodity in the city." After he left her alone with one guard, Emma tested her bonds. They were tight, but not impossible. She'd taken a self-defense class at Alexander's insistence, and she remembered what the instructor had said about staying calm, looking for opportunities. The guard was young, barely out of his 20s, and he looked nervous. Emma decided to take a chance. "What's your name?" she asked softly. He glanced at her, surprised. "Why do you care?" "Because you look like you don't want to be here." "Like maybe you got in over your head." His jaw tightened. "Shut up. My husband is going to come for me. You know that, right? And when he does, everyone in this building is going to die. Everyone except maybe the person who helped me." "I said shut up!" "Alexander Constantine doesn't forgive, but he does reward loyalty. If you let me go right now, I'll make sure he knows you helped me. I'll make sure you live through this." The guard's hand went to his gun. "Lady, you don't know what you're talking about. The people I work for, if I betray them, they'll kill my whole family. And if you don't help me, my husband will kill your whole family anyway. At least this way, some of you survive." She could see the conflict in his eyes. He was scared, torn between 2 impossible choices. Before he could respond, the door burst open and the tall man walked back in. "Having a nice chat?" He backhanded the guard across the face. "I told you not to talk to her. Get out!" The young man left, blood trickling from his split lip. The tall man turned to Emma with a smile that made her skin crawl. "Your husband is being difficult. Says he won't hand over the shipment without proof you're alive. So we're going to make a little video." He pulled out his phone and started recording. "Say hello to your husband, Mrs. Constantine." Emma stared directly into the camera, forcing herself to stay calm. "Alexander, I'm okay. Don't give them what they want. Don't." The man grabbed her hair and yanked her head back. "Wrong answer! Let's try this again. Tell him to cooperate." "No." Emma met his eyes defiantly. "My husband doesn't negotiate with people who threaten his family. You should have done your research. This won't end the way you think it will." She saw the flash of rage in his eyes a second before his fist connected with her cheek. Pain exploded through her face and she tasted blood. "Brave little thing, aren't you?" He leaned in close. "Let's see how brave you are after a few hours of this." But before he could hit her again, gunfire erupted outside. The man's head snapped up and Emma heard shouting, screaming, more gunshots. "What the hell?" He ran to the window and Emma saw his face go pale. "How did he find us so fast?" Alexander. Relief and terror flooded through Emma in equal measure. Alexander had found her, but now there was going to be a war, and she was in the middle of it. The tall man grabbed Emma's chair and dragged her toward the back of the room. "You're my insurance policy now, Mrs. Constantine. Your husband wants you back. He's going to have to go through me." The door exploded inward, and Alexander stood there with a gun in each hand, his face a mask of cold fury. Behind him, Emma could see Victor and at least a dozen other armed men. "Let her go!" Alexander's voice was deadly calm, which somehow made it more terrifying than if he'd been shouting. "Or what? You'll shoot me? We both know you won't risk hitting her." "You're right. I won't." Alexander lowered his guns and set them on the floor. "You want me? Here I am. Let my wife go, and you can do whatever you want to me." "Alexander, no!" Emma struggled against her bonds. "Don't do this." "It's okay, sweetheart." Alexander's eyes met hers, and she saw love and determination there. "Everything's going to be okay." The tall man laughed. "You must really love her." The great Alexander Constantine, surrendering himself. This is too good. "I said let her go first." "No, I don't think so. I think I'm going to keep both of you. Imagine the leverage I'll have then." That's when the young guard burst back into the room. "Sir, we have to go. There are too many of them. We're surrounded." In the chaos of that moment, several things happened at once. The tall man turned his gun toward the guard. Alexander lunged forward. Victor and his men poured into the room. And Emma, gathering every ounce of strength she had, threw herself backward in the chair. The chair cracked when it hit the ground, and Emma felt the bonds loosen just enough. She wrenched one hand free as gunfire exploded around her. She couldn't see Alexander, couldn't see anything through the chaos, and terror gripped her heart. Then strong hands were pulling her up, cutting through the ropes. Alexander's face appeared in front of her, checking her for injuries, his hands gentle despite the violence happening around them. "Are you hurt?" "Emma, look at me. Are you hurt?" "I'm okay. My face, but I'm okay." She threw her arms around his neck, holding him tight. "I knew you'd come. Always. I will always come for you." He kissed her forehead, her bruised cheek, her lips. "Let's get you out of here." Victor appeared beside them. "The building is secure. We have 3 of them alive for questioning, including the one who grabbed her." Alexander's expression darkened. "Good. Take my wife to the car." "I'll be there in a moment." "No." Emma grabbed his arm. "Whatever you're going to do, I'm staying with you." "Emma, you don't need to see." "I said no more secrets, no more protecting me from who you are. I'm your wife. I stand beside you. Always." Alexander looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Emma's eyes must have convinced him. He nodded slowly and took her hand. The tall man was on his knees in the center of the room, his own gun pressed against his temple by one of Victor's men. When he saw Alexander approach with Emma at his side, he actually smiled. "Go ahead and kill me, Constantine. But this isn't over. There are others who want what you have, more who will come after your pretty little wife." Alexander crouched down to look the man in the eye. "You're right. There will always be others." People who think they can use the people I love against me. So I'm going to make an example of you. I'm going to make sure everyone in this city knows exactly what happens when someone threatens my family." Emma expected violence, expected Alexander to pull the trigger himself. Instead, he stood and pulled out his phone. He made a call, his eyes never leaving the man's face. "It's done. Send the files to every news outlet in the city." "Yes, all of them." The tall man's smile faltered. "What files?" "The ones detailing your organization's entire operation. Names, locations, bank accounts, evidence of every crime you've committed over the past 5 years. By morning, the FBI will have enough to put you and everyone you work with away for life. And your bosses?" Alexander's smile was colder than ice. "They're going to know you're the reason their entire operation is burning down." The color drained from the man's face. "You can't. They'll kill me in prison. They'll kill my family." "Should have thought of that before you put your hands on my wife. Take him away." As Victor's men dragged the man out, still protesting, Alexander turned to the young guard who'd been talking to Emma. The kid looked terrified. "You're the one who was guarding her?" "Yes, sir. I swear I didn't touch her. My wife tells me you were considering helping her." "That true?" The young man swallowed hard. "I didn't know what to do. I never wanted to be part of something like this." Alexander studied him for a long moment. "What's your name?" Tommy Ricci." "Well, Tommy Ricci, today is your lucky day. My wife has a soft heart, and she asked me to give you a chance. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to work for me now. You're going to do exactly what I tell you, when I tell you, and in exchange, I'll make sure you and your family are protected. You betray me, you even think about betraying me, and I'll know. Understand?" "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me. Thank my wife." Outside, as they walked to the car, Emma finally let herself lean against Alexander. The adrenaline was wearing off, and everything hurt. "You did good in there," Alexander said softly. "You kept your head. You stayed calm. I'm proud of you." "I was terrified. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what needs to be done despite the fear." He helped her into the car and slid in beside her. "But I'm never putting you in that position again. I'm going to increase your security, bodyguards, drivers, everything." Emma shook her head. "I don't want to live in a cage, Alexander. And I don't want to live in a world without you in it." His voice broke slightly. "When Victor called and told me you'd been taken, He stopped, unable to continue. Emma took his face in her hands. "I'm here. I'm safe. We're both safe. This time, but what about next time? What about when we have children? How do I keep them safe in this world I've built?" It was the first time Alexander had mentioned children, and Emma felt her heart swell. The same way we'll keep each other safe, together, with trust and love, and the family we've built around us. Alexander pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes. I love you too, all of you, the dangerous parts and the gentle parts and everything in between." When they got home, Alexander insisted on checking every inch of her for injuries despite her protests. The bruise on her cheek was already turning purple, and her wrists were raw from the ropes, but nothing was broken. "I'm going to kill him," Alexander muttered as he gently cleaned the cut on her cheekbone. "I'm going to go back there and—" "You're going to stay here with me," Emma interrupted. "You're going to hold me and remind me that I'm safe. That's what I need right now." So that's what he did. They lay in bed together, Alexander's arms wrapped protectively around her, and Emma finally let herself cry. She cried for the fear she'd felt, for the violence she'd witnessed, for the realization of how dangerous her life had truly become. But she also cried from relief and love and gratitude that she was here, alive, in the arms of the man who would burn down the world to keep her safe. "I meant what I said in there." Alexander whispered into her hair. About making an example. Word will spread. Everyone will know what happens when someone threatens you. You'll be safer now than you've ever been. I know. I trust you. Do you? Even after tonight? Even knowing that this could happen again? Emma pulled back to look at him. Alexander, I didn't marry you thinking life would be easy. I married you, knowing exactly who you are and what world you live in. Tonight was terrifying, yes. But it doesn't change how I feel about you. Nothing could change that. How did I get so lucky? He asked, his thumb gently tracing her uninjured cheek. We both got lucky. We found each other when we both needed saving. They made love that night, gentle and tender, reaffirming their connection, their commitment to each other. And afterward, as Emma drifted off to sleep, she heard Alexander make a quiet phone call. It's done? Good. Make sure every family in the city gets the message. Anyone who touches my wife, who even looks at her wrong, will answer to me personally. I don't care who they are or who they work for. Yes, all of them. I want this carved in stone. Emma smiled into the darkness. Her husband was many things. Dangerous, powerful, ruthless when necessary. But he was also hers, completely and utterly. And she was his. The pepper spray was long gone. She didn't need it anymore. She had something far more powerful protecting her. She had Alexander's love, his devotion, his absolute commitment to keeping her safe. And in his world, that was worth more than any weapon. As she finally slipped into sleep, Emma's last thought was that she'd started this journey terrified and alone, carrying pepper spray as her only defense. She'd ended it as Emma Constantine, wife of the most powerful man in the city, protected by an army and loved beyond measure. And when Alexander whispered, "Sleep, my love, I'll keep watch," she believed him completely. Because that's what they did. They protected each other. They stood together against whatever came. And they loved each other with a fierce intensity that made them both braver, stronger, better than they'd ever been alone. The city might be dangerous. Alexander's world might be violent and unforgiving. But as long as they had each other, Emma knew they could face anything. And that was the most satisfying ending of all.